Good morning, dear students. Till now, we have completed about 6 lectures. The complete details about the organic farming. In the first lecture, you have learned about the prospects and its introduction, history, and how it was going to be useful for the farmers. What were its principles? In the second lecture, you have learned about biodiversity, and this third lecture, you have read about the complete organic details and the conversation of conventional into organic farming. And in the fourth and fifth and after that lectures, you have learned about many sources of organic farming that will belong to on farm and off farm resources that are available to farm this organic farming. And today we are going to see about organic waste recycling methods and techniques. What were the methods that has been involved in this organic waste recycling? What is meant by recycling of waste? I hope everybody know about this recycling concept. Everybody has some knowledge about the recycling. Okay. At present time on this earth, there was many number of organic waste, not only organic, many number of waste materials on this earth. We are going to convert that all the materials into useful forms. Okay, converting the waste material into useful forms is nothing but recycling. But in this chapter, you are going to see about organic waste. Let's see, recycling is the process of converting waste materials into new materials and objects. Okay, the recyclability of a material depends on its ability to require the properties it had in its virgin state. It means you are going to take the original state, we are modifying the original state, and we are going to use that materials into useful forms. It is an alternative to conventional waste disposal that can save material and help lower greenhouse gas emissions. We are going to control the greenhouse gas emissions also from this waste disposal. We are controlling the waste disposal, and we are going to reuse that in different forms on this earth. Okay, recycling can prevent the waste to potentially useful materials and reduce the consumption of fresh raw materials, thereby reducing energy usage, air pollution, and water pollution. By recycling all the materials, unwanted materials which were wasted, even though that can be useful in different forms, through that, in that process, we are going to minimize the air pollution and water pollution too. How we can minimize the air pollution? Because the waste materials whichever we have thrown besides our houses or in the barren lands, that were going to be mixed in the air, and it's going to be pollute the air in different forms. And the waste materials whichever thrown in water, in rivers or any seashores or any of the water bodies, that were going to be mixed up with the water, and that creates the water pollution. By reuse of this waste material, we are going to reduce the air pollution and water pollution. Organic waste recycling can be useful in many ways for the farmers. Okay, and let's see what is about that and how it was going to be related in this agriculture, organic farming. A variety of waste generated through different agriculture and other activities in our day-to-day life, including crop residues in the form of straw, stover, husk, biomass of uncultivated plant species and weeds, forest biomass, animal waste, and byproducts like dung, urine, bones, fish processing waste, and human habitation waste like garbage, sewage, and sludge. This many waste, or we are getting day to day, we are receiving these all the waste from different forms, through animals, through plants, through forests, through different forms. Okay, even through human habitation also, we are getting different types of waste like garbage, sewage, and sludge. Okay, these all the waste are going to be converted into the useful forms in this organic farming. Crop residues are abundantly generated in large quantities during cultivation. Okay, after cultivating the crops, we are going to harvest the crops, even though some amount of the crop residues are going to be present in the fields, that all the residues or all the stubbles or the stove or all the dried material that were going to be useful material after recycling, that all the waste are going to be converted into useful materials. After harvesting the economical parts, the plants are considered as waste and dumped on field side in mound. As I said before, this accumulated waste left on the field side causes major unpleasant odors and create disposal problems. Even the whenever we are going to throw that all, that's going to be difficult for human habitation also. Not only for human habitation, the in and around surroundings also going to be affected with that waste disposal. Okay, they also create environmental problems like occupying vast area, spreading foul odors, and forming breeding homes for most of the microorganisms and many micro mosquitoes also. Okay, wherever the waste material is going to be present in a huge quantity, or it's going to be dumped at the same place, in that place we are going to see more number of mosquitoes, which was going to be cause many diseases, for which acts as a vector for human diseases. Not only for humans, it's going to harm for many of the animals, and it's going to be difficult to control that in future days. Furthermore, they are often source of contamination of groundwater. As I explained before, that the waste disposal are going to be disposed in mostly in water bodies which are present in and around surroundings of the urban areas or the rural areas on the earth, and that were going to be create problems and contaminate the water up to its level. However, most of these potential nutritious waste are recyclable, organic and good source of organic carbon. Okay, whenever these wastes are going to be recycled and used in the farms, it's going to be give good source of organic carbon and also nutrients in the soil. These huge inexpensive nutrient source or otherwise unused organic waste can be utilized for recycling as valuable resources. Okay, and these considering growing deficiency of plant nutrients in crop field. Nowadays we are observing that there is more amount of nutrient deficiency in all the crops which we are cultivating at present days. We can also reduce that crop deficiencies, nutrient deficiencies, by applying this organic waste into the fields. Higher cost of synthetic fertilizers and poor sustaining soil health, reducing the pollution problem and creating employment opportunities, which is now being increasingly recognized as a strategy for sustainable crop production. Okay, we can also increase the soil health by reducing the pollution problem through recovering these organic whatever the waste materials which were present, that through this recycling process we are going to control the pollution and we are going to create employment opportunities for many people in this process, which is now being increasingly recognized as a strategy for sustainable crop production. Okay, this was the introduction about the organic recycling and for what was the reason we are going to recycle this organic waste. Let's see what were the methods that are available to recycle this organic waste. There were two different types of method. One is ex situ and second one is in situ. Ex situ includes composting and vermicomposting process, and in situ recycling we can see about raising of green manuring crops and mulching of organic residues. Let's see one by one. In the in situ recycling methods, the first one is about compost. Already in the previous class you have learnt about the compost what is meant by compost and how we are going to use that in our farms. Okay, composting is the natural process of decomposing and recycling of organic material into a humus rich soil amendment known as compost. For any business or institution producing food waste, this organic material can be easily decomposed into high quality compost. We are going to decompose the material which were will be available in the raw form, that we are going to decompose the material and we are going to form it into as compost. As we cannot give the raw material directly to the fields, as it causes many effects on the soil, and its physical and chemical nature of the soil changes the chemical nature of the soil, we are not going to put out all the raw material in the soil directly, and we are undergoing a process called decomposition of the raw materials, that is nothing but compost. Okay, recycling of organic material into humus, which after the decomposition, the organic waste which we are going to decompose, that will be having rich soil amendments. Okay, that will be having huge amount of nutrient content in that. What can be compost? Which materials we can used in compost will be useful in this compost preparation? Let's see. Fruits, vegetables, dairy products, grains, bread, unbleached paper, napkins, coffee filters, eggshells, meats and newspaper can be composted. If it can be eaten or grown in a field or garden, it can be composted. Okay, these were the materials that we are going to use in preparation of this compost. The materials which I have read now before, all the materials will be available in our kitchen. Even in our homes and in our kitchen, we are getting more waste and we are throwing it wastely. Okay, so that we can collect all the waste without wasting that, we can collect that in bins, and we can even prepare the compost at our homes for making our kitchen garden also. Okay, these materials can be composted. Items that cannot be composted, before I have read which products can be used in compost, and now I am going to list out some materials that cannot be used in compost preparation. Plastics, grease, glass and metals, including plastic utensils and bottles, polystyrene or chemicals. Any of these materials which I have mentioned cannot be used in compost preparation, as it cannot be decomposed. Items such as red meat, bones and small amounts of paper are acceptable, but they take longer to decompose. Okay, add red meat and bones to only a well controlled compost pile to avoid attracting vermin, pests and insects to partially decomposed meat scraps. Okay, I said about fruit waste, vegetable waste, kitchen waste can be used in compost preparation. And also some of the plastics, grease, polystyrene, any of the materials are not going to be used in compost preparation. Meat bones, that can be used, but the that products which belong to red meat or bones or any paper, that will take more amount of time to get decomposed. But the materials which can be decomposed earlier, that materials will give faster decomposition to the organic waste and can be utilized in a less time. Okay, if we get compost get ready done in very few days, that will be useful for farmers to apply in the fields, so that the materials which were going to be decomposed fastly will be selected for composting process. What were the methods of? We can see there were different methods of compost preparation. In this, now let's see some important methods which were mostly followed in all the areas. First one is about Coimbatore method. In this Coimbatore method, composting is done in its pits of different sizes. It may be pits are not at all definite, because some people will having a large amount of space and some people will not be having that much space. So according to the availability of the land and the material available with them, they can maintain the pit size. Okay, here we can they have given a particular somewhat related sizes which they want to build. A layer of waste materials is first laid in the pit. After completion of the pit size, then we have to give a layer of waste materials in the first layer in the pit. It is moistened with suspension of 5 to 10 kg of cow dung in 2.5 to 5.0 liters of water. Okay, 5 to 10 kg of dung is mixed in 2.5 to 5 liters of water, and 0.5 to 1 kg of bone meal sprinkled over it uniformly. First layer is about waste material. After spreading the waste material, then we have to make moisten the suspension with 5 to 10 kg of cow dung, with that will be mixed in 2.5 to 5.0 liters of water, and 0.5 to 1 kg fine bone meal sprinkled over it uniformly. Similar layers are laid one over the other till the material rises about 0.75 meter above the ground level. Okay, they have given something, matlab, it means they have given about 0.75 meter above the ground level. It is finally plastered with wet mud and left undistributed for 8 to 10 weeks. Plaster is then removed, materials moistened with water, given a turning, and made into a rectangular heap under a shade. Okay, it is left undistributed till its use. After completion of all this process, first they have to repeating again the process. First layer is about waste material spreading. After that, we have to give the suspension for decomposition, 5 to 10 kg of cow dung within 2.5 to 5 liters of water and 0.5 to 1 kg of bone meal. After that, it should be spreaded one over the other layer up to 0.7 meter above the ground level. Then we have to plaster with wet mud without undistributed about 8 to 10 weeks. After that, again we have to give a turning, and it should not be disturbed until its use. Okay, this is about Coimbatore method. Next, moving to indoor method. The similarities will be the same. It means spreading, and it was only the difference will be in turnings the waste material in that, and within use of how many days. In indoor method, it compost organic waste are spread in the cattle shed to serve as bedding. Here the organic waste are spreaded in the cattle shed to serve as bedding. Bedding is nothing but the layer. Okay, urine soaked material along with dung is removed every day and formed into a layer of about 15 centimeters thick at suitable sites. Okay, up to 15 centimeters thickness we have to spread the urine soaked material along with its dung. Okay, we are going to remove the dung along with its urine. Here, urine soaked earth scraped with from cattle shed is mixed with water and sprinkled over the layers of waste twice or thrice a day. Okay, because in cattle shed, if we see, there will be the huge amount of waste that we no need to throw that one unwantedly. We can use that dung and urine we can collect in a particular beans or anything that available in your cattle shed. No need to buy any other it means other things for this wastage collection. With the materials which were available in your farm, you can use that all the waste present from the day, it moves almost twice or thrice a day we can collect the waste material, and we are going to spread it over the bedding material. Layering process continues for about fortnight. A thin layer of well decomposed compost is sprinkled over top and the heap, giving a turning. It means already which has been present in that field or with you, that well decomposed compost should be sprinkled over the top layer. Okay, then we have to give a turning about it and reform. Old compost acts as inoculum for decomposing the material. As we are spreading the almost decomposed material on the top layer, that will helpful for the raw compost. It means which was going to be prepared for the other days. This act as the inoculum for that, for getting decomposed fastly. The heap is left undistributed for about a month. The bedding material and the scrapped material, after that we have used the almost decomposed material on the top layer. This is all going to be prepared within 1 month. Okay, then it is thoroughly moistened and given a turning. the compost is ready for application in another month. It almost takes 1.5 months to get decomposed of the compost, and we can use it in our farm. This is about indoor method. Next, Bangalore method. In this Bangalore method, the compost we can collect dry waste material of 25 centimeters thickness. Okay, whatever the dry material, it may be browns and greens. Okay, dry material, brown material can be collected, and we can spread it over 25 centimeters thick, is spread in a pit, and then a thick suspension of cow dung in water is sprinkled over for moistening. A thin layer of dry waste is laid over the moistened layer. The pit is filled alternately with dry layers of material and cow dung suspensions till it rises about 0.5 meter above ground level. It is left exposed without covering for 15 days. It is given a turning, plastered with wet mud, and left undistributed for about 5 months or till it required. In this Bangalore method, we are going to use only the dung and the suspension, cow dung and the water mixed with water. It was going to be sprinkled over the 25 centimeter thickness of this brown dry waste material. Okay, this is about Bangalore method. In Coimbatore, repeating again the process, in Coimbatore method we have used only the waste material and the urine mixed water as a inoculum. Okay, in the indoor method we have used only cattle shed material and the almost completed compost over the top layer. In this Bangalore method you have used dry waste material, and you have used cow dung water as a suspension. Okay, and you have spread it over the layer, and you have left for decomposition for 15 days. After that, we have given a turn of that compost material in that, plastered with wet mud, and left undistributed for about 5 months until it gets composted. Okay, this is about Bangalore method. Next, moving to the students, you have studied about 3 different types of compost methods. One is Coimbatore method, indoor method, and Bangalore method. In Coimbatore method, if we see, there will be an anaerobic decomposition. Okay, anaerobic is an absence of oxygen, followed by aerobic fermentation. But it is reversed in Bangalore method. The Bangalore compost is not so thoroughly decomposed as the indoor compost or even as Coimbatore compost, but it is bulkiest. Okay, the Bangalore compost is the bulkiest, and bulkiest is nothing but we are going to give it in a huge quantity. Okay, this is about the methods, and let's see how we can use this. Compost is a rich source of organic matter. Soil organic matter plays an important role in sustaining soil fertility and hence in sustainable agriculture production. In addition to being a source of plant nutrient, it improves the physiochemical and biological properties of the soil. Okay, if we apply this compost, there will be huge change in we can see different changes in these physiochemical and biological properties of the soil. For some of them are it becomes resistant to stresses such as drought, disease, and toxicity. It also helps the crop to improve uptake of plant nutrients, and it possesses an active nutrient cycling capacity because of vigorous microbial activity. In compost, there will be numerous microorganisms, so that the microorganisms will act in the soil, and it increases the microbial activity in the soil and increases the nutrient capacity in the soil. These advantages manifest themselves in reducing cropping risk, higher yields, and lower outlays on inorganic fertilizer for farmers. We can replace the fertilizers by applying this compost material in their fields. Take a note on the compost nutrient values. Okay, if it belongs to animal solid and liquid excreta, if the waste consists of these excreta, there will be different types of nutrients present in that. take a note on that. Okay, make a column. First one is about animals, dung and urine. Okay, nutritive value of animal, solid and liquid excretum. Make a side heading. As I mentioned here, you can take a note on that. Animal, first one is about cattle. Its NPK content will be of 20 to 45%. Phosphorus is about 4 to 10% and potassium is about 7 to 25%. If you see then urine percentage, if we see the NPK in urine of cattle excreta, it contains 1.21% of N, 0.01% of phosphorus and 1.35% of potassium. If we go for sheep and goat, it is having 20 to 45% of nitrogen, 4 to 11% of phosphorus and 20 to 29% of potassium. The urine of sheep and goat contains 1.47% of nitrogen, 0.05% of phosphorus and 1.96% of potassium. Next is about pig dung. It contains 20 to 45% of nitrogen, 6 to 12% of phosphorus and 15 to 48% of potassium. Pig urine contains 0.38% of nitrogen, 0.1% of phosphorus and 0.99% of potassium. And this is about nutrient value of animal, solid and liquid excreta. Next, why composting is necessary? Dear students, if I ask you what is the need of composting, why we have to compost, what you will answer? Here are some reasons why we have to do the composting process. The rejected biological materials contains complex chemical compounds such as lignin, cellulose, hemicellulose, polysaccharides, proteins, lipids and some other proteins in this. Okay, these complex materials cannot be used as such as resource materials. We cannot use that as directly. Okay, the complex material should be converted into simple inorganic element as available nutrient. Everything we cannot, given nitrogen will be converted into different forms for their availability into the plants. Likewise, here as this compost material, it means the organic waste, organic raw material which were adding as a waste materials, that will be having inorganic, there will be different types of materials that which are not going to be decomposed quickly and will not be formed into the available form. So that we are going to put it in and converting into simple inorganic element as available nutrient. The material put into soil without conversion will undergo conversion inside the soil, which affects the soil in their physical and chemical terms. Okay, this conversion process takes away all energy and available nutrients from the soil, affecting the crop. Okay, it will affect the crop if we directly apply in the fields. So that we have to convert that, and this conversion period is mandatory in composting process. As we want to make the good compost for good uptake of nutrients, here are some reasons why: proper nutrient mix, moisture content, aeration, particle size, pH levels and temperature. These are very much important in making good compost. Okay, we have to mix the nutrients. It means different types of compost materials we have to collect rather than collecting only one types of material. Okay, so that this proper nutrient mix, it definitely increases the nutrient value of the compost, and this depends on the collection of material type. Okay, if we are going to collect the kitchen waste, it will contain different types of kitchen waste will contain more amount of nutrient quality. If we use that material as the waste material in preparation of compost, it increases the nutrient value of the compost. And so that when we have given these compost to the soils in the field, so that the nutrient value of the compost increases the nutrient value of the soil in that field. and helps in good crop production. Moisture content. We have to observe whether the moisture present in the soil, compost pit, or in that area should be optimum, and we should not give more than the optimum, not less than the optimum level. We have to check the moisture content. Aeration should be there, and mostly air should not be allowed in the compost pits, okay, so that the decomposition will be slow down. If we allow the air into it, we have to check that the process of that, okay. Next one is about particle size. How was the particle size? If we should not give directly as we have taken that, we have to make into the small chop. We have to chop that materials if that was having greater size, okay, so that it will helps in decomposition fastly. And the pH levels also should be observed for the maintaining the compost in a balanced pH level. Next one is about temperature. Temperature should also be maintained according to the compost material. Here you can see the compost will be, you might have seen many videos and many chapters. They will be saying compost is nothing but browns and greens. What is meant by browns and greens? The waste material, the dried part of the leaves, straw, woody materials, or we can say it as browns, okay, and the greens are nothing but grass, food scraps, and manures, okay. That's that we can say that as raw plant material, and the browns are nothing but dried material. That is nothing but compost. Combining these browns and greens will give good quality of compost, okay. What will be happen in compost? If we see here, water will be applied here, microorganisms will be present there. Not only microorganisms, there will be earthworms and insects also will be present, which will be helpful in composting process, okay. We are going to allow the air in that heat will be exposed or escaped into the atmosphere, and so that this all combination will be present in these compost pits and will be helpful in the forming of compost. We have to check that mature or stable compost if already done, okay. We have given all the materials, we have done all the methods which we want to follow in that procedure of that compost pit. Then after that, some days, it might be 1 month, it might take 45 days, it might take 2 months. We have to check in between after giving this making this compost pits, okay. We have to know whether it has been matured or not, it means prepared or not. Mature or stable compost is similar to humus in appearance, smell, and touch. It will give mature appearance, okay. Whenever if we touch that, we'll feel the sense that it has been matured. It means the complete material will be decomposed. The finished compost will no longer heat on it, okay. There will be no heat on it. When during the process of compost, we can see if we go, even the cow dungs, the heaps will be formed in around of the places of villages, okay. If we go there, we will feel that there will be so much of heat in that area, because we are not going to allow any of the air to escape from that. It was totally inbuilt in that area, so that we'll feel the sense of heat. But when we see the finished material, we'll no longer sense the heat in that area, thus maintaining the ambient temperature, and there will be no weeds, seeds, or pathogens. As we are doing such a things in this compost, it will also reduce the weed growth and suppress the weed seeds, and it cannot be dormant, it will be in that dormant condition only. The pH will be near 7.0 and the moisture content will be between 35 and 50%. If the compost has been done and get ready for the applying, the pH level, if we check, it should be about 7.0, and the moisture content in that compost should be of 35 to 50%. The seeds to N ratio will be 10:1 to 25:1. The organic matter content will be between 40 and 65%. It is important to protect the compost from wind blow, weed seeds until it points of use. If we kept the compost like that only after it has been matured, as the crop according to our convenience, we are going to keep that in our fields. But during that time, we should not allow the compost to be exposed to the atmosphere, because many of the seeds will be crossing over that area, and that will be settled down on the compost. Whenever you are going to use that compost in the fields, definitely there will be weed growth. So that we have to protect the compost until its point of use in the fields. What was the advantages of composting? Volume reduction of waste. We can reduce the waste material which was going to be present. Final weight of compost is very less. Composting temperature kill pathogen, weed seeds and seeds. Matured compost comes into equilibrium with the soil. During composting, number of waste from several sources are blended together. Excellent soil conditions, saleable product, improves manure handling, reduces the risk of pollution, pathogen reduction, additional revenue. This is about the advantages of composting. As we can reduce the waste material, so that we can use that in different forms in the fields, and also we are reducing the pathogen weed seeds germination in that by maintaining the temperature in that composting process. We can also give employment to many people for the preparation of this compost, and we can also sell this product for maximum amount of price for the farmers or for the industries. It can also helps in pathogen reduction. It also reduces the risk of pollution. The benefits of using compost to agriculture. Let's see, it improves the physical properties of soil, enhances the chemical properties of soil, improves the biological properties of the soil, and economic and social benefits of composting. There were different types of benefits through application of this compost to the fields. Okay. Suppose if we see the physical properties of soil, it reduces the soil bulk density and improves the soil structure, increases the water holding capacity to the soil, and also it protects the soil from water and wind erosion by reducing the soil dispersion action. If we add that, so that it will combine with the soil and it will hold the water for the longer time. Helps bind the soil particles into crumbs by the fungi or actinomycetes mycelia contained in the compost. It helps in soil aeration and the supplies enough oxygen to the roots and escapes excess carbon dioxide from the root space. If we see the chemical properties of the soil, it enables soils to hold more plant nutrients and increases the cation exchange capacity, anion exchange capacity, and buffering capacity of soils for longer periods of time. And also it after compost are applied to the soils. This is important mainly for soils containing little clay and organic matter. Not only that, builds up nutrients in the soil. Compost contain the major nutrients required by all plants like NPK, magnesium, sulfur, and these are very important to our plant growth. These all nutrients will be present in the compost application. The nutrients from mature compost are released to the plant slowly and steadily, and these benefits will last for about more than one season. It also improves the biological properties of the soil, like supplies food and encourages the growth of beneficial microorganisms and earthworms. It also helps suppress certain plant diseases, soil-borne diseases, and parasites. Disease control with compost has been attributed to 4 possible mechanisms: successful competition for nutrients by beneficial microorganisms, antibiotic production by beneficial microorganisms, successful predation against pathogens by beneficial microorganisms, activation of disease-resistant genes in plant by compost. In different forms, we can improve the biological properties of soil. If we see the economic and social benefits of composting, the economic and social benefits of composting will be brings higher prices for organically grown crops. Not only that, composting can offer several potential economic benefits to communities, extend current landfill longevity, and delays the construction of more expensive replacement landfill or incinerator. It also reduces or avoids landfill or combustor tipping fees and reduces waste disposal fees and long distance transportation cost. We no need to transfer these waste materials for other places, or for you cannot no need to pay any of the bills regarding this organic waste transportation. Okay, so that we can prepare this in our own fields, and you can save all these expenses by preparing it, and we are doing advantage for our own farms. This is about the compost benefits. Till now we have completed about compost and its methods, benefits, and what were the care we have to take care about the compost preparation. Next we are going to see about the vermicompost. Vermicompost is nothing but composting is done with the help of earthworms. Okay, vermicompost is a process in which the earthworms convert the organic waste into manure rich in high nutrition content. We will see earthworms are the farmers' friends. Vermicomposting is a scientific method of making compost by using earthworms, which are commonly found living in soil, feeding on biomass, and excreting it in a digested form. Okay, the worm excreta is going to be collected, and that will be used as vermicompost. Vermiculture also can be used. That is nothing but worm farming. Okay, earthworms feed on the organic waste materials and give out excrete in the form of vermicast that are rich in nitrates and minerals such as phosphorus, magnesium, calcium, and potassium. Earthworm vermicasts are rich in phosphorus, magnesium, calcium, and potassium. These are used as fertilizer and enhance soil quality. Vermicompost comprises of two different types of methods. One is bed method and one is pit method. I can say that these were the basic methods which everybody were following, but according to our availability we can find different methods to do this vermicompost. This is bed method is an easy method in which beds of organic matter are prepared. In pit method, the organic matter is collected in cemented pits. However, this method is not prominent as it involves problems of poor aeration and waterlogging. Okay, the basic principle of this is this process is mainly prepared to add nutrients to the soil. Compost is a natural fertilizer that allows an easy flow of water and to the growing plants. Okay, this actually this vermicompost will be having high nutrient content compared to normal compost. The earthworms are mainly used in this process as they eat the organic matter and produce castings through their digestive system. If we see the nutrient profile of this vermicompost, here I have mentioned 1.6% of nitrogen, 0.7% of phosphorus, 0.8% of potassium, 0.5% of calcium, and 0.2% of magnesium, 1.75% of iron, 96.5% of manganese, and 24.5% of zinc. These were the nutrient profile of this vermicompost. You have seen the nutrient profile and the form of preparation of vermicompost. Now we are going to see the materials required for preparing this vermicompost. We need water, cow dung, thatch roof, soil or sand, gunny bags, earthworms, weed biomass, a large bin or plastic or cemented tank, dry straw and leaves collected from paddy fields, and biodegradable waste collected from fields and kitchen. These were the basic materials that you can find in and around of your farm area and in your home itself. Okay, you can prepare it easily at your home also for your kitchen garden. Now we are going to see the procedure of this, how it going to be prepared. This was the basic procedure which everybody was following. To prepare the compost, either a plastic or a concrete tank can be used. Any of the things which were available at your place, you can use that things, either the bin or plastic tray or any of the concrete tank. The size of the tank depends upon the availability of raw materials. If you are having more amount of raw materials for compost making, you can build a large size of pit. If not, if you are having less number of raw materials, so that you can reduce the size of the tank. Collect the biomass and place it under the sun for about 8 to 12 days. Now chop it in the required size using the cutter. Here we are not going to use directly in the pit, but we are going to sun dry the materials of about 8 to 12 days, and then we are going to make it into small pieces. The material, if there are any large size material in that compost, we are going to chop that into small size material. Prepare a cow dung slurry and sprinkle it on the heap for a quick decomposition. Cow dung slurry will helps the compost to get decomposed quickly. Add a layer of 2 to 3 inches of soil or sand at the bottom of the tank. As the first layer, we can use this soil or sand, any of these material at the bottom of the tank. Now prepare a fine bedding material by adding partially decomposed cow dung, dried leaves and other biodegradable waste collected from fields and kitchen. Distribute them evenly on the sand layer. Like compost only, you are going to add the 1 by 1 layer. At the first, as a bedding material, you can use sand. After that, you have to use the bedding material like decomposed cow dung, dried leaves or any of the biodegradable waste materials. Continue adding both the chopped bio waste and partially decomposed cow dung layer wise into the tank up to the depth of 0.5 to 1.0 feet. Okay, we have to layer by layer, we have to increase the size of the distribution of this organic waste. Once after adding all the bio waste, release the earthworms species over the mixture and cover the compost mixture with dry straw or gunny bags. We can use after repeating layers of different types of waste in that pit, we are going to release the earthworms which we have selected, and we are going to release that earthworms in the pit. Sprinkle water on regular basis to maintain the moisture content of the compost. After spreading the different layers of waste, then we have to spread the gunny bags on that. We have to cover the topmost layer will be covered with gunny bags, and we are going to maintain optimum temperature in this, and the moisture content should be always examined whether it has been having optimum moisture or not. Earthworms need more amount of moisture. Okay, cool temperature it requires. Cover the tank with thatched roof to prevent the entry of ants, lizards, mouse, snakes, etc., and protect the compost from rainwater and direct sunshine. To protect from the direct sunshine, we are going to cover the pit area with thatched roofs. Have a frequent check to avoid the compost from overheating. There should be no heat in that pits. Okay, earthworm need more amount of moisture. Maintain proper moisture and temperature as it requires. Okay, now advantages of vermicomposting. What was the major benefits of this? The major benefits of vermicomposting will develop roots of the plants. It helps in development of roots. It improves the physical structure of the soil. Vermicomposting increases the fertility and water resistance of the soil. Helps in germination, plant growth and crop yield. Nurtures soils with plant growth hormones such as auxins, gibberellins, and with different types of plant growth hormones. These are about the advantages of vermicomposting. As there are advantages, there will be also sometimes disadvantages. It has some disadvantages like time consuming process. It takes about 6 months to convert organic matter into usable forms. It releases very foul odor. Vermicompost will be having foul odor. Vermicomposting is high maintenance. The feed has to be added periodically, and care should be taken that the worms are not flooded with too much to eat. The bin should not be too dry or too wet. The moisture levels need to be monitored periodically. They nurture the growth of pests and pathogens such as fruit flies, centipede, and flies. Okay, in this process of vermicomposting, we can see many different types of pathogens will be present in that area, and fruit flies also. Centipedes will be in more number as it has very cool temperature. Centipedes will be grown in huge number. Okay, it also releases foul odor, and so one cannot tolerate that, and it takes longer period for getting into available form. It takes about 6 months. So that these are the some disadvantages of vermicomposting. Here, up to here, we have completed the in situ methods of organic waste recycling methods. One is compost and the second is vermicomposting. And here we are going to see about ex situ methods of organic waste recycling methods. Of them, one is raising of green manuring crops. You already know what is when we green manuring. We are going to incorporate the plants which were grown there, and that will add the manure itself. Okay, that is about the we are going to raise the crop in that, and we are going to incorporate in the soils. Crop green manures are forage or leguminous crops that are grown for the leafy materials needed for soil conservation. Okay, here we are going to incorporate that in the soil, and this application of leaves will be collected from different types, different places, and elsewhere is known as green leaf manuring. Okay, you know that manuring will be having green manures and green leaf manures. Green manures means it will be the plants will be grown at that place and going to be incorporated in that field itself. In green leaf manuring, we are going to collect different types of green leaves from different places, and then we are going to collect them at one place and shift it to the field and incorporate it in the field. Cultivation of green manure crops or green leaf manure improves the soil structure, increases water holding capacity, and decreases soil loss by erosion. As we are going to cover that area with raising these crops, then there will be reduced soil erosion in that area. It reduces weed proliferation and weed growth. Besides, it also helps in reclamation of alkaline soils and minimize the attack of root knot nematodes. Not only controlling the erosion, increasing the water holding capacity, it also helps in reducing the weed growth, and also helps in reclamation of alkaline soils and minimize the attack of root knot nematodes. Green manures are also a valuable potential source of nitrogen and organic matter. In rice-based cropping systems, Daincha will be used as green manures. It is highly suitable as green manure crop for waterlogging and heavy rainfall areas. Whereas Sunham Crotalaria gentiae is suitable for rainfall areas, green gram, black gram, fodder cowpea, horse gram, or preferred green manure crops for tropical climate. Wherever the tropical climate observed, we can use these crops as all the gram crops as green manure crops in that climate. Nizer and coxcomb are selected as potash rich green manure crop. Which crops are selected as potash rich crops? Nizer and coxcomb. After 45 to 60 day old green manure crops can generally accumulate about 100 kg of nitrogen per hectare. It gives 100 kg of nitrogen per hectare, which corresponds to the amount of mineral fertilizer nitrogen applied to the crops. So that we can reduce the fertilizer application in that area and increases these. We can replace that with green manuring crops. Integrated use of green manure and chemical fertilizer can save about 50 to 75% of the required nitrogen fertilizer in rice. In rice, if we are going to integrate both of these methods, it means growing of manure crops and chemical fertilizers, we can reduce about 50 to 75% of the required nitrogen fertilizer in rice crop. Green manures also helps in favors the effect on chemical, physical and biological properties of soil. In the ex situ type of recycling methods, First one we have seen about raising of green manure crops, and the second one is the mulching of organic residues. We are going to take the mulch material and we are going to cover these as the top layer of the soil so that we can reduce the soil erosion and we can increase the soil water retention capacity, maintain the soil structure, drought tolerance, and also protect it from leaching of nutrients. This is the advantage of mulching of organic residues. Biomulch accelerates the decomposition of crop residue and enhance nutrient cycling. Not only that, it also encourages the natural biodegradation process. Application of biomulches can improve the soil organic matter content, the water and nutrient retention in soil susceptible to leaching, and stabilize soil pH. Not only that, it can also be used as a source of both macro and micronutrients. However, these benefits can be reduced in hot, humid climates, in which the decomposition of organic matter is faster than in temperate climates. If we see compared to temperate climate, in tropical climate it will get decomposed fast. Sufficient residual moisture should be maintained for proper decomposition and release of nutrients. Always we have to monitor the moisture content periodically without getting any loss of this application. Organic mulch were an important method of weed control before the development of herbicides in commercial vegetable. This is all about today's topic, dear students, and now I am going to put out some questions from today's topic. Answer it accordingly. Or mention the nutrient value of cattle dung. Mention the nutrient value of cattle dung. Second question, mention the nutrient value of sheep and goat. Mention the nutrient value of sheep and goat dung. Yes, third question, in compost enrichment, which suspension will help in quick decomposition? In compost enrichment, which suspension will give quick decomposition? Third question, mention some advantages of compost application. Mention some advantages of compost application. Fourth question, what were the two different methods in vermicomposting? What were the two different methods in vermicomposting? Next question, how much amount of nitrogen will be present in vermicompost? How much amount of nitrogen present in vermicompost? Thank you, students.